Welcome back to part 2 of our interview with Melody. We're so excited, so let's just get right back into it.
One of the questions you asked me earlier about like if I was to design my own challenge, I would actually want to add that element to it. So that if a trainer found themselves in the ring and just were like,
call a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. like the game show.
Game show.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Call a friend.
Yeah, call a friend.
Right? And to be able to do that without shame, without it being seen as a failure.
Yeah,
yes.
like you don't know enough that you need help.
Exactly.
Like admitting to that, and you're doing right by the horse by not putting yourself in that vulnerable space, because you can get really hurt when you make those choices.
And when you make the wrong choice. Like even for me, like I've had to do that before where I said no. Like I can't do that because, or we had a horse about a year ago that you had called me in, and he was struggling. He had some issues, and we could tell it was pain related. We knew that, but immediately he was already ready to kind of kick at me. So I was like, we need to slow this down. And I think some owners, anyone who's listening who's an owner who is not actually a professional in the industry, you need to recognize that we need to have time sometimes. As a trainer, 30 days, if that horse is untouched, you can't expect it to be saddle broken done. As a body worker, if they are kicking, biting, taking it out on me, yeah, they may need an adjustment, and I know that, and you know that, but I am not going to get on that stool and do it at that moment, because I'm breaking the trust of that horse. Yep. I'm setting myself up for failure, and I'm setting them up for failure, and setting us all up for pain and suffering in some way. Like whether it's me getting my shit rocked or
unnecessary pain and suffering for everybody.
Yes.
I feel like, girls, we could have a whole conversation on unrealistic expectations owners put on trainers, body workers, anybody in this industry.
Yes. That could be a whole segment on the show.
That is just
defend with our whole chest.
Yes. Hancock's aren't bronchi. Yes. 30 days, do not expect miracles, like at all.
I think 30 days should be banned.
I agree. I don't do, and this is what I tell all young trainers actually when they're starting, is I say do not, and I know you guys are trying to pay bills, right? Like you're accepting whatever you can accept, but I'm like 60 days minimum. 60 days, and after 60 days, this is the one thing I would love to see trainers do. And I know it's challenging, but I would love to have trainers to do 60 days and then the owners be able to do an evaluation and then be able to book in for 90 if needed. Like that flexibility, but I know it's hard with trying to manage your schedules.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's
but like to me that's
smart.
perfect, because we've had that a couple times with horses that have come
like,
from
nope.
the challenges, and I'm like, at 60 days, my rule is, are they safe enough for Mel to ride? And if Mel can't get on them at 60 days after a trainer, I want 90. Like I don't want them coming home until I can ride them. And for your listeners out there, I'm a 49-year-old woman who would consider herself a confident beginner. That's where my head is at.
For sure.
This past year, I actually finally, I'm shitting on myself right now, but I have finally put in 60-day minimum policy.
Fantastic.
And you'd be surprised at how many people argue with you. They're like, oh, I've done the groundwork, and I'm like, I don't care.
It gives me time to assess your horse,
and
be around them.
I want your horse to go home and be successful. And it's just 30 days is not enough time to just create good habits and then have them stick.
Yes.
So
I think 30 days, especially on the colt start, doesn't work. If you want to do 30 days of specialized training for roping or something like that, 100%.
Yeah.
But colt starting, okay, people pull your heads out of your asses. 30 days does not need to get it done. You need to look at 60, if not 90. That's where I'm at.
Agreed. Preach.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry.
This is a rabbit hole. Rabbit hole. We love rabbit holes. Okay, so I want to go back to the breeding style of things. I want to ask you some questions about advice for our listeners from the breeder's POV, because I think you have a very unique and special point of view that I'm excited to hear your opinion. So if someone listening right now was considering buying a young prospect from a breeder, what are things that they should be looking for?
Yes, this is a tough question.
It's a broad one.
It is a broad one. My first one is, the first thing you should look at is history. And I say it's a tough one because for young breeders starting out, it's hard to have a history.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a history, chances are your stock does. Learn about your stock.
Yes.
Okay. So in the case when we were starting out, our first mare, our first registered quarter horse, I should say, was an impressive Chic.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Completely foreign to what we had been doing, but she was black and beautiful, as my dad said. I think if you don't have the history of the genetics, go find the history of the genetics. Because everybody will say, and as a breeder, this is probably one of my pet peeves, you can't ride papers. I get it. You can't, but the papers can provide some predictability, right? So I think you need to have that history. And so I would say if they can't tell you a lot about the history of the bloodlines, and I don't mean they need to get into the nitty gritty of they won 500,000 in this, they won 400,000. I mean to talk about like the usability and the trainability. My second thing is as a breeder, you need to be open to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
Okay. Not every horse we breed needs to be rode. Not every horse we breed needs to make it for the rest of their life. There are good crosses. There are bad crosses. There are ugly crosses. And I think if as a breeder, you're not willing to recognize the good, the bad, the ugly, you're not being truthful about it. So I think you have to be able to talk about it. That just sometimes crosses don't work. There's some things that just happen. So for me, if you're looking at a young prospect, understand the history and the rationale for that history. So for us, we've talked a lot about we're raising that all-around family versatile horse that I grew up on. Right? We're never going to be number one in rein cow horse. That's not our goal. Don't want to go there. I don't have the history for there. Right? I've got the history for the all around. So understand the history and then really that openness to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly.
And I think that goes for listeners. Don't be looking at the history of a horse that, let's say, is an all-around that you want to be a reining prospect, like at a high level. If you're just learning to rein, for
different
sure.
story, exactly.
But if you want him to be at like the high-level competitions, or you want to be a D1 barrel racer, don't look at these stuff.
No,
it's not going to work. You're setting yourself up for failure, and you're setting the horse up for false expectations.
And I think that's the other thing too, is it really is about the match, because we get a lot of people that'll come here and they'll be like, well, I want a barrel race. And I'm like, okay, are you wanting 1D times? Because if you want 1D times, I'm not your girl. So I think that's the other thing too, is the good, the bad, the ugly, not just with the stock, but just in what that horse can accomplish. Like you just said, setting them up for success is making sure there's a good match. We have people that show up here that will tell me they're an advanced rider. They will come, they get on a horse, and I can tell you within 30 seconds, they are not an advanced rider. And they want the most spirited, fast, forward-moving horse. And I'm like, that horse is not the one for you. And we have actually killed sales. And I think that's the other thing, too, is that you need to understand is just because you show up here does not mean that I've got a horse for you. I'm going to look at your ability. I'm going to look at what you want to do. And I will call it and say, I don't think that's a good match. If you've got a breeder that's saying, oh, we can be everything to everybody, that's does wrong. Not exist. So be specific in what you're looking for. And if the breeder doesn't ask you questions about what you want to do, not just 30 days, we're talking 5 years down the road. Like, what is the plan for this horse?
Red flag.
That's a red flag for me. Because then it's about the transaction. It's not about the relationship.
Yep.
Okay, well, we're kind of leading into this. Do you have any other breeder red flags that buyers should look out for when they're evaluating breeding programs and looking to purchase potential prospects?
Yeah, so you're right. We talked about this a little bit, but I think matching the right horse with the right owner cannot be understated. It cannot be overstated enough. That's really, really important, is understanding where they're going and what they want to do. I think the other thing is, as much as we like to believe the horses we're selling are all perfect and have no quirks, every horse has a quirk.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter how much you use ChatGPT to make it sound good. They got a quirk. Let's talk about the quirks. Let's be open and honest about it. And if the quirk isn't something that you think that they can handle or something that you think that they can overcome, be open about it, because ultimately it'll just bite you in the butt down the road with your reputation.
Yep.
But talk about the quirks.
Those are great to hear. I think it also creates so much more trust and trustworthiness as a breeder. So listeners, if you're buying horses, look for these information that they're willing to share. If somebody's being cagey about it, chances are there's a reason.
Yeah.
So leave it alone. Like we stated in our last episode, buying a horse,
Yeah. I think
if
that's
there's
funny,
something
the
cagey,
sequence of that.
yeah,
actually.
the sequencing was not purposeful, but it's very like they work together. Of like, if you're buying a horse and somebody's being cagey about it, whether it's a Kijiji ad, a breeder, anything like that,
Red flag.
regardless of their reputation, and I quote unquote that, no, cut it off.
And I think
fair.
maybe even to other breeders out there, I mean, I think it would be nice to say, perhaps, it's okay to say no to people and to pass a sale, and also to be advocating for your horses. Because if you really wanted to sell your horse and you kind of completely overlook the red flags, the personality of the person, you sell your horse to that person, and they end up butting heads, and then that person goes out and says, well, I'm never buying a horse from
exactly
Ding Dong again because they gave me a dud. I think
It's
that's
better
just
on your
part
reputation.
Business is knowing your product and knowing who's going to best use that product, and in this case, that's horses.
Or
Exactly.
even the horse going down into the auction route and going into these other avenues that maybe you don't want to see those prospects that you've done so much work to get them to that point into those avenues.
Yeah,
It's funny you say that, because we take a risk. We brand our horses. They
Yes.
wear the J Heart, and that is a reputational risk that we run. And it was a conversation we actually had about branding our horses, was what happens if there's that mismatch? And that horse now ends up in auction and it's just making its round.
yeah,
Everybody sees that J over heart.
Yep.
So we may take it maybe a little bit more serious, because the J and the heart's on that left hip.
Yeah.
And the papers also start with RHR. So people can quickly see that's an RHR horse. So I think that's maybe why we take it a little bit more seriously about saying no and trying to match to a degree the right thing, because
Better business.
it's just better
Yeah.
business. And it's easily traceable back to our family.
And
our
as
ranch.
horse people and professionals, we need to be way better about business, whether you're a farrier, a body worker, a trainer. We need to do business mindsets. It's not just about the love.
No.
We have to think about our businesses as well.
or the quickest amount of money we can get.
Exactly.
Making thoughtful choices that is going to benefit everybody long term, and sometimes that's missing that potential
Client or whatever.
or potential check in the mail or whatever you want to call it, but it could bite you in the ass later on. And going by your gut, I think, is really important in that aspect. So
well, the realities
Yes.
of breeding horses today, it's probably a little different as it's changed over the last few years, and you've been in the industry, so you've seen it. What do you think the biggest challenge breeders face in 2026?
Yeah, so I think there's two that we face, and some of your listeners are not going to like this answer. I'll preface
go
it right
for
now.
it.
The backyard breeders. The people, okay, so, and I'm going to define backyard breeders.
Thank you.
These are the breeders that are not trying to elevate the brand and have no connection to the horse.
It's just for money.
It is just purely for money. Okay. So if I've got an amazing mare that has been with me since childhood, and I've got a deep emotional connection, and I really want a baby out of you, and it's only going to be for you, I don't consider you a backyard breeder. There's a connection. There is a purpose
Yes.
for that horse. That is not the backyard breeder. The backyard breeder is the one that went, it's not such a great barrel horse anymore, but I think I can take a baby out of it. Meanwhile, the horse is crooked. It's got bad issues with it. It's not
ulcer
training.
problems.
There's so much going wrong with it that you're like, just because your horse cannot be ridden anymore does not mean it should arbitrarily become a brood mare.
let that sit for a moment.
Yes. Just because you can't ride your horse anymore does not mean it should become a brood mare.
A fucking men.
So that's probably our biggest challenge is we've got this philosophy that everybody's like, well, my horse totally, it would be a broodmare. No. The second one is I think we're painting ourselves in a corner, the specialization that's happening. The fact that we have to have one horse for this, one horse for that, one horse for this. Like, I'm sorry, growing up, my dad was not going to give me 5 horses, one to go trail riding in, one to go round up cattle. One, it was like we had one horse. And it had to be well-rounded enough to do a little bit of everything. And I think we're missing that. And I'll use an example. I know of an individual whose horse had never been ridden outside. Came here, got rode outside, and the owner didn't know what to do with it. And I thought, what a horrible life for that horse. Yeah. It had only known the arena.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, I just never want to see that. But the horse was so specialized that it wasn't allowed to be a horse. And for me, I think the specialization, I think we're starting to paint ourselves into corners with that.
I agree. I would agree with that. Just even like for breeding, how we're doing it, it doesn't make it easy to do other jobs. That makes sense. I think
for horse longevity too, I always think, okay, what happens if you die?
Yes.
And no one else can take your horse.
Yeah. What happens now?
You want a horse that could go to a kid. You want a horse that can go on a ranch. You want a horse that can go maybe do some small jumps. The more versatile your horse is, the better chance that if you get in a car accident tomorrow, that horse is going to be okay, not end up in an auction.
In a good home.
Or end up hurting somebody really badly, or end up dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's something that, like, everyone wants the athlete and the weapon, and that's so specifically specialized, but you really limit
your
that
audience.
Horse's world and the audience that could potentially, because we're not guaranteed tomorroose, regardless if you're young, old, somewhere in the middle. You can get into a car accident. You could get run off the road.
Like I did.
Just the other day.
I literally ended up in a ditch. I was driving on this like one highway where it's one lane on either side, and this truck starts like zigzagging, and I was like, what is happening here? And then just full on went into my lane, and I had to like divert, and I texted her because I was like, oh my God.
But that's the thing. Like,
there's no guarantee.
There's no guarantee. And the kindest thing you can do for your horse is just have them be prepared for
whatever,
as much as you can prepare them for to be well-rounded.
Yeah, because it gives them a higher chance of success if something goes wrong. Because even if we don't die, let's say what if the money runs out? Or we don't want to talk about that, but it happens. What if we have to prioritize money into other facets of our life? How do we make sure that they will end up in a safe and a happy home? Because especially anybody who loves their horse, like most people do, you don't want to hear of it going down those routes that you didn't feel it should have. Yeah. So setting them up for that success is so important. I mean, I guess that leads into the next section. What do you think people romanticize that actually just isn't true about the breeding industry? I know we kind of talked about the backyard breeding and where you think it's just going to go handy dandy and everything's going to go well, but
I feel like the industry has really shifted, and we've humanized the industry. And I think, and this might be an unpopular opinion with some of your listeners, horses are not humans, right? They have feelings. We all know that, especially redheaded mares. But they romanticize the horse. Like, I'll never forget, we were at a 3-day colt starting challenge, and I had a lady come up to me and say, are your horses best friends? And I'm like,
you or them, or
no, with best friends in the herd. Like, are they besties? And I remember looking at her and saying, well, there's a herd dynamics here that you're maybe not understanding. There's a lead horse. There's like, everybody's on this pecking order. And this lady was mortified that one horse would kick another, that there would the whole herd dynamics was just such a philosophy that was so foreign to them, that they romanticize this. They think that all these horses are constantly loving each other and
gentle,
frolicking, and unicorns and sunshine. And oh my gosh, no, I'm sorry. If you've ever watched a mare herd, the fur is
brutal.
Flying. Yeah, the fur is flying. So I think there's a lot of romanticizing somehow about horses' interactions with each other and with humans. So I would say that's probably one of them. I think we talked a little bit about the economics.
Yeah.
There's hard decisions to be made.
Yeah.
And the economics, sometimes if a cross isn't good, you got to make some tough decisions. I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, we had a 3-legged foal born alive.
Oh my.
Alive. So I'm going to go down a rabbit hole here.
Yeah. I'm excited about this rabbit hole.
One of our interns finds it. Horse is presenting, one leg out and the nose. So I'm thinking leg back. So I go get all up in this horse's grill. I'm fishing for this other leg. I can't find another leg. Go get my dad. I'm like, Dad, like, what am I missing here? Because again, he's advisor. He's like, Mel, there's got to be a leg in there. And I'm like, well, then you go in and find it. So he goes in. He's like, I can't find anything. And I'm like, well, it's maybe all the way back. We pull this. We end up pulling the foal. No, it's got a nub. The right front leg never developed.
Whoa.
So we figure the umbilical cord wrapped
around and it
like
aborted it basically.
But she didn't abort. So here we have this 3-legged foal. And we have a bunch of people with us that day.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of people. And they're like, what are you going to do? They're like, can you get a prosthetic? Can you get this?
Yeah.
Not quite.
And we had to break their hearts and we had to make a tough decision. And we actually had to say, you know what, guys, you need to walk away right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because what quality of life was going to be for that horse? Yeah, I guess we could have maybe invested thousands in a prosthetic, but what's the purpose? What was the outcome? So I think people romanticize sometimes the outcomes of those horses. Not every horse is meant to be rode. Not every horse is meant to survive. It sounds horrible to some of you listeners, but the ethical thing to do is focus on what is their quality of life going to be. And if they're not going to have a good quality of life, you have to be a responsible owner.
Yeah, that's how you show love.
That's
You
exactly
show
how
love.
you show love.
Yeah.
By doing that.
By doing the right thing, not the right thing that might be right to you in the sense of like it will give me comfort.
Right.
But the right thing by the animal
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Who's this about?
Yeah.
Exactly.
What asking those questions, is this a good quality of life? Will they be happy in the sense of like being able to maintain herd dynamics, being able to do all of these other things? Will they actually have a life?
Well, they have a purpose.
Exactly. Just standing in a field.
Because let's be honest, horses don't want to just stand in a field. Like they all like that time, but they're meant to do something with.
Yeah, and it's a different story when they've aged and they've done their time and they've done all of these things and then become, the pasture pony who kind of grows because you're giving them a retirement. It's kind of like people. You don't retire until you hit the retirement age.
Exactly.
And you're a business too.
Yeah.
And a horse
He's
like
expensive.
that, it's expensive for, what the outcome at the end of the day, right? For something to just exist.
Yeah.
It's
What are you going to do with it as a breeder?
That could go towards something else way more meaningful that could elevate your
the
business.
brand. Exactly.
Or elevate the welfare of all your horses in general.
So to us, if we can't ride it, if we can't breed it, then it needs to find a new home.
That makes sense. Well, that actually...
And you can't ride every horse. I can't ride 100 horses.
As much as we want to. I think that also kind of goes into the dynamic of social media. That people maybe who are unfamiliar with different industries across the board, not just with horses or breeding, they see something that they don't understand and have a lot of feelings. Big feelings, and maybe not have the knowledge behind it. So in this day and age, what role does social media and, just even being around the public that may not know the industry itself play in showcasing, your breeding horses too?
Yeah, so social media has been the most major disruptor, I would say, to the world for sure, but I feel like to the horse world as well, the breeding industry.
Yeah, the landscape.
The landscape has totally changed. So I think from a disruption perspective, it's been good in the fact that it allows us to be more transparent about what we're doing. But with that transparency comes responsibility, not just from the people, from us posting, but from those people reading it. To truly take a minute and those big feelings, put those on pause because that's about them, right? And actually do some investigation. And
don't just react.
Don't just react, right? But for us, it's a game changer. Like social media, I sell probably 95% of my horses off of social media. And I'm not talking auctions. I'm talking about we post videos. It's how we build our business, right? It's that reputation. It's how we get it out there. And that's one of the things I tell all of the young up and comers. I'm like, when we're looking at selecting trainers for young guns, it's 80% horsemanship on the matrix, 20% on their socials and their website. Because ultimately, if you're not on socials or a website,
no one knows who you are.
No one knows who you are.
You have no discovery.
Yeah.
And that's like your resume.
Yeah, 100%.
That's your evidence. That's your resume. That's your product.
Absolutely.
And if you're not posting, it's a red flag, in my opinion.
Yes. I think the other thing, too, about social media is you really have to watch as a business how, and we talked about this offline, is how political you get.
Yes.
I have my views, you have your views. Those are views for a conversation when we're having a cup of tea in person. They are not meant to be online. No. If you're not in your business, personally, whatever. But even as a business person, I don't post a whole lot politically or anything like that. And it's not because I'm afraid to. I just don't need to alienate a good an audience. I could potentially alienate some great horse owners, right? Or they could alienate me. And there's just no point when it's a personal thing that we can have a conversation about without it being broadcast to everybody. I feel like sometimes to a degree, we've lost the ability to understand what should be public and what shouldn't be public.
And also nuance.
100%.
We've lost nuance. It's one left or right, up or down. There's no
black
option.
or white. There's no gray.
There's no gray. And I think also social media has done a great job of polarizing people in the sense of it's an algorithm that is meant to show you only what you want to see. So you don't see other opinions, you don't see other ideas, and so you can get stuck in this world,
this echo chamber,
yes, of the only thing, and everyone else thinks the same way, and then you go and talk to somebody in person and they don't think the same way as you, and you get really angry and you get very reactive very fast because you think everybody has to be, look at what the internet told me, everybody is saying the same thing. Well, no, your content, your algorithm is saying the same thing. It doesn't mean it is the exact same, and also doesn't mean what they're saying is wrong, and it also doesn't mean what you're saying is wrong. There is nuances. There is no such thing as an objective truth when it comes to opinion. There is about facts. Be clear. There is such thing as facts, but opinions are not objective. They have nuances. They have different experiences that create them. So being able to have those conversations, whereas social media, it's like, this person said this, blah, it's in your face. You don't know the nuance behind it. You don't know how they got to that point or what they've experienced to get there. So being able to, take that time instead of reacting immediately and maybe looking at that nuance.
That's totally fair.
Same with, with horses, the nuance of what is good, what is bad. That rider is bad. Well, yeah, because they're a beginner. This is their second week ever riding. So, yeah, you're right. They're bad at it, but they started. Yeah. Good for them.
And they're just inexperienced, right?
Yeah, they tried. Or that rider is so good. Yeah, they've been doing it 40 years. You can't have that expectation that the same two people ride at the same level with different experience, different horses too. She has $1 million horse. She has a $50 horse, like those type of things. And so people remember nuance.
Nuance is so important.
Yeah. This is my favorite question. What do you hope people think of when they hear the name Rocking Heart?
I hope they think of a family that has spent generations building a legacy that is honest and trustworthy, that is delivering a product that is versatile and dependable and that kind of all-around family horse. But at the end of the day, I want them to think Rocking Heart Ranch and be like, as simple as this sounds, those are good people. Oh, those are just good people.
Chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss. Okay. I'm loving this, and I don't want this interview to end.
Same.
You're phenomenal.
Oh, you're too kind.
But we ask, just just for sake of comparison and for fun, we have a few questions that we've been asking every one of our guests in the saddle, just to compare and contrast. And I think it's been really interesting hearing what everybody's had to say, because everyone has been so right in their world and in their opinion, and
it's been drastically different still.
We've got 4 questions that we've been asking all of our guests in the saddle, so I'm very excited to hear your answers.
Ooh.
First one is, what's one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self starting out in this industry?
Yeah, I was so glad you guys sent me these ahead of time, and I still don't have all the perfect answers that I probably would like to say. I think for this one, and I'm going to say it's in the broader context of industry in general, and maybe even the agriculture industry. Don't wait to be invited to the table. Pull up your own damn chair. Because when I look back at my career, I've had some amazing mentors. And if I wouldn't have actually pulled my chair up to the table and given them the opportunity to become a mentor, I'd be in a much different position. And I could have sat and waited, and I waited too long probably for some of it. But yeah, pull your own damn chair up to the table.
I love that one. And it's something I know myself, I can really relate to it. I think we're always waiting for that permission or for the time to feel right. Or the right moment.
There's no perfect time.
There's never that perfect time. And the best time, what is that saying? The best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The next best time is right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I love that. What legacy do you hope to leave both in and outside of the arena?
Yeah, so I think our legacy is going to be largely out of the arena. And I think it will be, honestly, in the memories made in the riding or the trail or just the experience and the partnership with the horse. That's really the legacy I hope to leave, is partners people trust and rides they remember.
I love that too.
All the feels.
I love that too. What is your biggest hope for the next generation of horse people?
Yeah, this one's easy. This was such an easy one for me.
We figured.
Okay, well, there's 2, and I've already talked about one. My biggest hope for the next generation is you guys never have to ride asshole horses or work on asshole horses. That you have barns full of good stock that is not setting out to kill you, and we've all elevated the brand, right? Like the breed, the brand.
Yeah.
My second biggest hope for the next generation is invite others to the table. Collaboration, and you talked about this earlier, Britton, is that we collaborate, that we start to work together, and this is not a dog eat dog world. Those days are gone. I tell you, if women ran these worlds in all these countries and we collaborated, the world would be such a different place.
Yes.
But I think we have the opportunity to do that in our industry, and I think we need to do that more. So that's what I'd like to see, is for us to invite each other to the table, and so that we're all sitting around and collaborating.
I love that too. Last question. Is there one thing that you do outside of the saddle that helps your horsemanship in general?
I think for me, and this came later on in my life, and is something I wish that I would have actually started in my 20s, is every morning, I take half an hour and I meditate and I journal. And it gives me my mental health is in such a stronger place because of it, which means when I do head to the arena to ride a horse, my head's just in a better place. And if you ask my husband, he'll say I'm a much calmer Zen-like person since I started doing this. So for me, my horsemanship, I can approach things in a much more calmer, less emotional way by learning my meditation and by journaling and focusing on that. And it's something that mentors told me 20 years ago I should have done, and I didn't listen.
Whoopsie.
But now I fundamentally believe that that's changed my horsemanship. The other thing I would say is the being open. It's the dropping of the ego and thinking that I have to know everything. That's the other thing, is being open to having those conversations where I feel safe to say, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, so I'm going to go find some help. And I think that's a big piece too. And I think that's a struggle for women in the industry, especially because we put this pressure on that we are supposed to know everything because we can't appear weaker than our other halves.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. With the meditation, do you find that it gives you a sense of clarity and a bit more intention when you go to the horse? Yeah.
It does. And it's actually even something that I've translated into my groundwork. So before I step on a horse, I have like a 10-minute drill, but actually part of that is a meditation with the horse. So I actually do deep breathing with my horse.
Yeah.
And it sounds silly, but I will stand at the head of my horse with head and hands or my hand on the shank. And I'll be like, we'll take some deep breaths. And I'll be like, okay, bud, we're just going to calm down. We're going to have a good ride today.
Re-regulate.
We totally re-regulate together. Because sometimes I can still walk into the arena a little hot and
we all
flustered,
can.
right?
Yeah.
But by doing that, by learning meditation out of the arena and then bringing it back in, it has made me such a different rider.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to try doing that a little bit more, I think.
You know what? It is crazy. So my Slimmy, when I started doing that, he would sometimes come in and it was Jekyll or Hyde, right? And I could get him to turn by just like holding his head in my hands and just being like, he picked up
just
on that
giving
energy, right? And you know this as a trainer.
That emotional regulation is everything.
Yeah.
And if we aren't intentional, if we aren't intentional about it, and it's hard when you're a business owner, when you have a million things on the fly. I call it a beehive. Like there's times where you're just literally like, because
I love that.
Everything. I'm a freaking beehive sometimes.
Yeah.
And you have to have some sort of outlet, or else
they have to go get the honey.
It gets spread to your horse.
Yeah. It does.
And unless you're intentional about getting rid of that, like there's so many horses out there who are they're
a
mirrors.
beehive.
They're mirrors. And I think that's really powerful that you say that, and a lot more people need to practice it, especially in the day. I feel like I'm an old man, but social media and the phones, we're exposed to so much.
So rapidly.
Yeah, one video, like the other day I was watching like a cop chase, and it was like these guys were driving down the freeway, getting this guy in his Chevy Trax, and I was like, holy shit, like this is a lot. And then the next thing you watch a dog video, and it's like a dog is dying.
Rapid change.
All of this is just like your energy is up and down, and then you're taking that and getting on the back of a colt. Like, what are you doing, right? Having that moment to just, decompress, let go of all the energy, be present in this moment, and then letting your horse feel that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Game changer.
Absolute game changer.
Yeah, I agree. Or even just like setting yourself up to be nervous about something, like I was in a very severe accident with a horse, and we've talked about it on the podcast a little bit, but like I still get nervous. Like it's something that I actively have to work through, and sometimes I'm totally fine tacking up. I am totally fine walking them around, driving them around, but the moment I have to put my foot into that stirrup, I feel it. I feel panic. I feel anxiety and stress, where immediately my whole nervous system is just on fire. And I have a horse that you cannot be on fire with. It's just not what works for him. Some might be able to tolerate it. He's not one of them. And I really need to try and settle myself down. And sometimes I find that very difficult. So I think I'm going to take that a little bit more to try and be a little bit more meditative and trying to re-regulate in that exact moment, because I'm totally fine until I hit that getting on. And you can see it in my actions. I rush. I start to just like, I get tense. I'm sure Taya's even seen it when I've come on to some of her horses, where I almost feel like I'm failing in that moment, which sounds ridiculous. I know I'm just throwing a leg over, and if it doesn't go immediately how I want in that moment, I'm like, and once I'm on, I'm fine. It's just that it's slow transition. So I need to get better at that. And I think I'm going to take that under advisement. My goodness. I really don't want this to end, because I am immensely enjoying this conversation, and you are so well spoken and articulate about your thoughts, and I really appreciate that, because I like listening. But I think we've had a very fantastic,
it's been awesome,
informationally impacted episode. We've had so much information and so much good tidbits that people can take and nuggets that they can take with
Rabbit
them.
holes with roots.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I like that.
New
yes.
t-shirt.
Rabbit holes with roots.
Beehive mind.
100%.
And I think our listeners can really soak this up. And I really want them to take a moment to really mull this over, because I think this is a lot of information we need to process, like the horses. Go back to your little group and reprocess all of this information.
Go soak out in the pen for
a
couple days.
But yeah, I think we've stated this, but we've thoroughly enjoyed learning from you and having somebody like you who has a seat at the table and is willing to bring a chair to others. And we've really enjoyed you being a part of Uncinched, and thank you for taking the time to talk to us and give our listeners such valuable information. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Well, it's not only my pleasure, it is my unbelievable honor. And I know that the next generation, our industry is in strong hands with ladies like you guys at the helm coming up. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, if you enjoyed this episode, and if you're looking for ways to follow Melody and Rocking Heart's programming and what they're up to, you can check out their social media Instagram at Rocking Heart Ranch, or their website, rockingheartranchltd.com, which will be linked in our description and in our show notes and on social media as well.
We also wanted to mention that 3 of Melody's colts will also be headed down to Horse Expo Canada, April 24th to 26th, 2026, for the Trainer Showdown, which we spoke about extensively here. So make sure you get your tickets there so you can go see those lovely colts. Rocking Heart will also be hosting Young Guns competition in September. I believe it's the 11th to 13th, 2026, where the next generation of professional trainers can shoot their shot. So if you are wanting to participate in that or watch, make sure you're checking out all of their socials and getting involved and getting tickets and supporting our next generation. If you're interested in attending either of those events, the event details and their websites will be listed in our show notes and description and social media. So that way you have all the information to go and be awesome humans and go enjoy.
As always, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for listening. If you love what we're doing and want to support Uncinched, make sure you hit that subscribe button and share our content with more people so that more people can enjoy the fun. I think we have a lot of fun around here. So if you aren't already, please also make sure to follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok because we are Gen Zs. So please follow us on there for more updates and behind the scene content in between episodes. Side note, today we got a tour of all of Melody's horses, so you will definitely want to check out social media if you want to see all of her gorgeous and hilarious babies. We had a little bit too much fun, so definitely we'll be putting out content of all of the Rocking Heart horses that we got to visit today. So that's it from us. Until next time, thank you guys, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Bye!